Welcome to India Today Global. This is Crossfire, the show that dives into the heart of global conflicts, where nations collide, alliances shift, and lives hang in the balance. On tonight's show, we tell you how Russia's war machine may be facing a financial crunch as the country's national wealth has now plummeted to about $38 billion. Also on the show, we tell you about China's new military base in Beijing, which is reportedly 10 times bigger than Pentagon, with experts even calling it the doomsday bunker. Stay tuned as we break down these crucial developments and explore their impact on the future of global power and security. Russian president is nervous as the country's war machine, once seemingly invincible, is now facing a financial nightmare. Skyrocketing interest rates, depleting reserves, and a banking crisis looming on the horizon. The big question, can Russia afford to keep fighting, or is the war in Ukraine finally pushing the Kremlin to the brink of bankruptcy? Our next report decodes it for you.
Russia's economy has defied expectations, but cracks are now showing. Interest rates have soared to 21%, making borrowing painfully expensive. This isn't just worrying small businesses, it's shaking the country's biggest oligarchs. Take Igor Sechin, the Rosneft boss, or Oleg Dekpreska, the aluminium tycoon. Both have publicly slammed the government over suffocating interest rates. Dekpreska even warned last year that Russia could run out of money soon, and that fear isn't unfounded. Russia's National Wealth Fund, a crucial safety net, has plummeted from $100 billion in 2022 to just $38 billion today. At this rate, experts warn it could run dry in 2 to 3 years. That's a massive red flag. Inflation is another ticking time bomb. Prices are climbing at 9.5% annually, fueled by excessive war spending and a severe labor shortage. The Russian central bank has tried to fight inflation with aggressive rate hikes. But last December, a mere 3 words from Putin, balanced rate decision, were enough to stop an expected increase to 23%. And then there's the banking crisis. Think tanks have warned that 1 in 5 Russian companies is at high risk of bankruptcy by year end. Capital Economics has flagged Russia as being at high risk of a banking collapse. The reason? Banks are drowning in bad loans, many given at floating rates that leave them exposed to rising interest costs. But here's the catch. Experts say Putin can't technically run out of money. As long as Russia controls its own currency, the Kremlin can keep printing rubles to fund the war. But that comes at a steep price: soaring inflation and economic instability. Western officials believe Russia's ability to sustain the war depends on global oil sales. China and India have become Moscow's biggest buyers, snapping up discontinued barrels. Analysts argue that unless the West tightens sanctions, Russia's economy will continue its slow decline rather than collapse outright. So, is Russia's war machine finally on the verge of bankruptcy? Not yet. But the economic strain is mounting, and the Kremlin is walking a financial tightrope. Will Putin tighten his grip and push through the crisis? Or will economic turmoil force his hand in Ukraine? The next few years could decide the fate of Russia's war and its economy.
What China is building right now, it's not just big, it's colossal. A military fortress so massive, so ambitious that it's making Pentagon look tiny in comparison. A new report by the Financial Times has sent shockwaves through global intelligence agencies. The world's largest military command center, spanning across 1,500 acres, is taking shape just southwest of Beijing. So what is this mega military complex really for? A defensive stronghold? A command hub for global power projection? Or is Beijing preparing for war? Find out in our next report.
Satellite images analyzed by intelligence experts reveal a sprawling construction site, roughly 10 times the size of the Pentagon. It's being called Beijing Military City, and it could become the most significant military headquarters in the world. US officials believe that this isn't just a military command center. It's potentially a doomsday bunker for China's People's Liberation Army. A heavily fortified stronghold where China's top military brass can operate in secrecy, even in the event of a nuclear war. And the timing is extremely telling. China's People's Liberation Army is gearing up for its 100th anniversary in 2027. The same year, Xi Jinping has vowed to reunify Taiwan, even by force if necessary. The United States has long warned that China is expanding its nuclear capabilities at an unprecedented rate. Intelligence reports suggest that China could have 1,500 nuclear warheads by 2035, a tenfold increase in just a decade. So could this massive command center be a crucial part of China's long-term military strategy? Now, the Financial Times report highlights several critical observations from satellite images. 100 cranes are operating at this site, suggesting rapid large-scale construction. Extensive underground tunnel networks, likely for secure communication and transport, also exist. There are also heavy restrictions around the perimeter. Hiking trails have been closed, checkpoints have been set up, and strict bans on drone activity are in place. There is no military presence visible yet, but intelligence officers say the site has all the hallmarks of a top-secret military installation. And this isn't the only concerning development. Reports also suggest that China is constructing a massive nuclear fusion facility in Mianyang, a site believed to be the focus of advanced nuclear weapons technology. With the Pentagon closely watching Beijing's every move, the big question remains: is this just about military expansion, or is China preparing for conflict? One thing is certain: China's military ambitions are growing at a scale the world has never seen before.
Over 4,000 aid trucks have entered Gaza since the ceasefire. Food, medical supplies, and humanitarian relief are finally flowing in. But here's the question: is it actually helping? Palestinians are still hungry, homeless, and struggling to survive. If relief is coming in record numbers, why are conditions still so desperate? For more on this, listen in to our next report.
For 15 months, Gaza was under relentless bombardment. Airstrikes flattened cities, entire families were wiped out, and essential supplies were cut off. And then came the ceasefire. As part of the agreement, Israel promised to allow 600 aid trucks into Gaza every day. That's over 4,200 trucks a week, a dramatic increase from the past. And on paper, that sounds like a lifeline. The World Food Programme says that in the first 4 days of the ceasefire, it delivered more food than it did in any full month during the war. Aid is entering through 2 crossings in the north and 1 in the south. Agencies are setting up bakeries, distributing food packs, and reopening some shelters. Hamas forces have even returned to the streets to help restore order. But here's the reality. Getting aid into Gaza is one thing. Getting it to the people is another. Even with increased deliveries, humanitarian workers say distribution is still a nightmare. Destroyed roads and bombed out streets make transportation nearly impossible. Moreover, the United Nations says that up to 10% of explosives dropped on Gaza never detonated. Aid workers risk their lives just to deliver supplies. Many critical supplies like water tanks and medical equipment require special Israeli inspection, delaying deliveries. Meanwhile, Israel says that it is still screening aid for dual-use items, fearing that they could be diverted by militants. While Gaza is finally getting some relief, the situation is far from stable. If this ceasefire collapses, will the aid stop again? And will Gaza be pushed back into starvation and crisis? Most importantly, will the world continue to watch? This is a story that is far from over.
Well, that's all we have for you in this edition of Crossfire. Stay tuned to India Today Global, where we simplify geopolitics for you.